Good afternoon, Mariana. Today you have something very special to share. What is it about? I will recount my near-death experience, where I discovered surprising truths about Black people. Our ancestors were not cursed but were blessed, prosperous, and wise peoples. And how does this affect your life today? This revelation gave me a mission to help our people rediscover their true identity and heal historical wounds. It's liberating. Incredible, a powerful testimony. Stay until the end. My name is Mariana Silva. I'm a high school history teacher at a public school in the interior of Minas Gerais. And you? Where are you watching me from? Comment below. I want to feel that we are close. And take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, because this is not just a testimony. These are words that warm the heart and calm the soul. I am 46 years old, and until that day my life was like many people's, divided between work, my family, and the church I have attended since childhood. I have always loved teaching, especially about ancient civilizations, their achievements and tragedies. However, ironically, I never deeply explored the history of my own ancestors. The little I learned about Africa before slavery always seemed distant, something quickly mentioned in textbooks, almost as a secondary detail. I never questioned it, until everything changed. That night I was at home, grading papers at the kitchen table. I felt tired, but I thought it was just the accumulated stress of the week. Suddenly, a strange sensation took over my chest. My body became weak, and everything around me started to blur. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't obey. The sound of the clock echoed eerily. And then, darkness. When I opened my eyes, I saw something that took my breath away. I was looking at my own body lying on the floor. Panic took hold of me. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. However, instead of fear, a deep peace enveloped me. It was as if invisible arms were holding me, preventing me from succumbing to despair. The kitchen light shone with unusual intensity, illuminating every detail around me. Everything seemed sharper, more alive. I realized I was no longer in my body, yet I still existed. Before I could understand what was happening, I felt an invisible force pulling me upward. It was an indescribable sensation, as if the air was gently lifting me, taking me away from my home. The familiar environment disappeared, replaced by a vast space of radiant light. I wasn't just seeing light. I was immersed in it, enveloped by its pulsating energy full of love and understanding. Then I noticed a presence in front of me. At first, it was just a luminous silhouette. But as it approached, I instantly recognized it. It was him, Jesus, there was no doubt. He wasn't like in the paintings or biblical stories. He was real, more real than anything I had ever known. His eyes reflected such deep compassion that they seemed to see every thought, every doubt, and every hidden pain within me. And yet in his gaze, there was no judgment, only love. "Off." He smiled gently, and although no words were spoken, I understood that he knew why I was there. "Come," he said, but his voice did not pass through my ears. It resonated within me, like a call that pierced my soul. Without hesitation, I took a step forward, and everything around us began to change. Images appeared before us, as if time itself was unfolding. I saw ancient ruins, vast deserts, and mighty rivers cutting through fertile lands. Then, the images became clearer. I saw people I did not recognize, but who somehow seemed familiar. It was then that Jesus began to speak, revealing truths I had never understood. Truths that would forever change how I saw history. My identity and the role of African peoples in the divine plan. Once What do you know about the curse of Ham? He asked. His question echoed deeply within me. I grew up hearing this story used to justify slavery and oppression. According to this interpretation, Ham was cursed by Noah, and his descendants condemned to servitude. Although I never accepted this idea, the fact that such a harmful narrative had spread so widely always troubled me. I looked at Jesus, seeking answers. He nodded as if he already knew my thoughts. This story was distorted, he explained. The curse never fell on Ham, but on his son, Canaan, and it had no relation to African peoples. His voice was calm but firm. As he spoke, the space around us changed again. I saw ancient scribes carefully copying scrolls, scholars debating in unknown languages. In the background, I noticed something unsettling. Invisible hands altering words, changing meanings, reshaping narratives. This was not accidental, he continued. It was not ignorance. It was intentional. Over time, these distortions were used to justify slavery and oppression. My heart ached with understanding. The suffering, racism, and deep wounds inflicted on generations were reinforced by deliberate lies. Before I could speak, Jesus raised his hand and the visions changed once more. Now I saw a vibrant land overflowing with life. Great cities rose with impressive architecture. Rivers meandered through bustling temples and prosperous markets. Men and women of black skin, dressed in fine garments, carried scrolls, worked with precious metals, and shared knowledge. That was the true history of Africa, a story of grandeur and wisdom, far from the distorted narratives I learned. These, said Jesus, pointing to the visions before me, are the descendants of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Put. They were never cursed, they were blessed. Tears began to roll down my face as I watched kingdoms I never learned about in school, civilizations erased from the pages of history. I saw the great kingdom of Cush, a land of prosperity and wisdom, where kings ruled with justice and balance. Egypt was not just a place of slavery, but a center of advanced knowledge and spirituality. The images flowed like an endless river, and I absorbed every detail with insatiable thirst, as if I were rescuing truths forgotten for centuries. Mizraim was the ancestor of Egypt. Cush gave rise to the powerful African kingdom. NDE, the descendants of Put, built flourishing civilizations in North Africa. They were not inferior. They were not abandoned by God. The truth echoed deeply within me. Throughout my life, I was taught an incomplete story. Now I saw reality unfolding before my eyes. As Jesus spoke, I felt admiration and anger growing in my heart. How was this hidden from us for so long? Why did no one tell us that our ancestors were kings, priests, architects, and scholars? Jesus saw the anguish in my heart. With infinite patience, he continued. There were those who sought to erase the truth. Knowledge is power, and those who wanted to subjugate the descendants of Ham needed to deprive them of their identity. His words burned within me like fire. Slavery was never a destiny decreed by God. It was a crime committed by men who distorted the truth to justify their actions. Then, the vision changed. I saw Moses, still young, walking through the golden halls of the Egyptian palace. He was not raised there by chance, Jesus explained. Egypt was a cradle of wisdom, and Moses needed to learn from it to fulfill his mission. The revelation hit me deeply. I was always taught that Egypt was just a symbol of oppression, but now I saw something more. Before becoming the great liberator of Israel, Moses was immersed in the knowledge of an advanced civilization, preparing him for the role he was destined to play. As I absorbed these revelations, something even deeper became clear. God never abandoned the African peoples. His presence was always among them, guiding them, inspiring them, sustaining them even in the darkest moments of history. Jesus continued, and suddenly I saw visions of ancient African communities. They sang and danced around bonfires, raising their hands to the sky, harmonizing with the earth, water, and stars. The connection with the ancestors was never idolatry, he said. It was respect. It was a recognition of the wisdom God placed in those who came before. The words hit me like lightning. How many times was I told that African traditions were primitive or wrong? How often were we led to believe that the only way to connect with God was by rejecting our own spiritual legacy? But there, in the presence of pure truth, I understood. Our faith, our history, and our connection with the divine were never broken. Our spirituality always carried the presence of God. But over time this connection was distorted, erased, and turned into something shameful. They wanted you to forget who you are, said Jesus, his voice heavy with sadness. But the truth can never be erased forever. The images continued to unfold before me. I saw tribes gathered under the vast starry sky, their prayers rising like whispers to the heavens. I saw elders passing down sacred stories from generation to generation, preserving memory through the spoken word. I saw kings and queens ruling with wisdom, justice, and deep respect for God. Each scene pulsed with vibrant energy and undeniable connection with the divine. Then Jesus showed me something that made my heart race. I saw ships cutting through the ocean, their decks full of chained men and women, tears streaming down their faces. An overwhelming sadness pressed on me, a pain that spanned centuries. They tried to break you, said Jesus, his voice full of compassion. But they couldn't. Suddenly the vision changed. I saw those same faces once marked by suffering, now lifted in song, men and women in the fields, their voices rising unshakable, mothers whispering forbidden stories to their children, ensuring their culture was never lost. I saw the rise of liberation movements, struggles for justice, battles fought not just with weapons, but with faith. Even in the midst of pain, you carried the spark of truth. No, Jesus continued. You turned your resistance into praise, your suffering into strength. Your spirit was never enslaved. Tears streamed down my face. For so long, I saw my identity as fragmented, shaped by the scars of oppression. But now, in the presence of Jesus, I saw the truth. We were not just descendants of the enslaved. We were descendants of kings, priests, and visionaries. Your resistance? It was not just political or social, he said. It was spiritual. Before my eyes, familiar figures appeared. Zumbi dos Palmara, Luis Gama, leaders I always admired, but now saw in a new light. They were not just leaders. They were fulfilling a divine calling. Then, Jesus revealed something even more powerful. I saw churches built by calloused hands, services held in open fields, enslaved people finding unbreakable strength in their faith. They tried to tell you that you were cursed, he said softly, but you were always chosen. His words echoed within me like thunder. At that moment I understood. Our faith, our resistance, our struggle for justice were never in vain. They were part of something greater, a plan, an awakening. The truth was already in motion, unfolding into something grand. I saw the present, the world as it is today. Young Black people reclaiming their history, spiritual leaders teaching long-hidden truths, thinkers leading a movement of awareness and restoration. The truth is returning, said Jesus, his voice full of promise. The time for healing has come. Then I saw something even more powerful, a great spiritual awakening sweeping across nations, people from all backgrounds coming together, recognizing the truth, shedding tears of repentance and liberation. What was broken will be restored. What was hidden will be revealed, declared Jesus. A wave of peace enveloped me, and for the first time I felt whole. I understood my mission. I had to share this truth with the world. Jesus took my hand, filling me with indescribable light. Remember, Mariana, he said gently. Remember and share. The truth will set you free. Before I could respond, I was pulled back. The celestial glow disappeared, and suddenly I was gasping for air. Voices surrounded me, the worried face of my sister, doctors and nurses rushing around me. I was in a hospital. Someone said I had been clinically dead for 12 minutes. But I felt no fear, only peace. Now I knew the truth. In the days that followed, I struggled to put my experience into words. How could I explain something so vast, so transformative? But I realized that my purpose was not just to understand, but to share. I returned to teaching, but now history carried a deeper weight. I studied, sought evidence, and more importantly, I spoke. At first, I feared being discredited, but to my surprise, people listened. Friends, students, and even strangers felt a deep connection with my story. Many admitted they always felt something was missing in the history they were taught. Others shared their own spiritual encounters as if something inside them was awakening. The truth was no longer hidden, it was emerging, and I was ready to help reveal it. The truth had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. My mission was not just to share my experience, but to help heal. I delved into theology and history, discovering the true role of African civilizations in the ancient world. I gave lectures, wrote articles, and talked with scholars and leaders, bringing this truth to my community, not as a story to be forgotten, but as a call to remember who we are. God never abandoned us. We were deceived, but now we are awakening. With each conversation, I saw people heal. Young Black people embracing their history, parents teaching their children about their true identity, and many realizing that the faith of our ancestors was always rooted in God. This journey is not just mine. It belongs to all of us. That night did not mark an end, but a new beginning. Jesus revealed the truth so it could be shared, restoring what was lost. The history of Black people is not a story of curse, but a story of purpose, resilience, and strength from the Creator. And now, more than ever, I understand what it truly means to be free. What do you think? The story needs to be re-examined. Have you ever felt a deeper connection with your identity? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss a story that can change the way you see the world. Watch the next video on the screen. I promise it will surprise you.